If I'm to resent Donald Trump for one thing, it's that every time he mentions Canada, we get thrown into a patriotism purity spiral where every Canadian pundit and politician has to signal on how much they're wanting to defend Canada from the Americans and America sucks and we're great. Guys, the 51st state comments are not serious. I know this clip exists and we're going to watch it. Even here, Trump is not serious. What real actions has he taken that would cause Canada or Greenland or Panama to be annexed? He already got what he wanted out of Panama, which was them to divest themselves from China so that the Chinese government cannot control the canal. With Greenland, he probably just wants military bases on Greenland to be leased for free, that they get to build where they want and maybe get some mineral rights. And with Canada, it's the border security thing, our bad national defense spending, and then he also probably wants us to unlock certain industries that we have heavy protectionism over. And absolutely we do. And that's actually really bad for our industry and our own people because when we have 260% dairy tariffs on the US, or basically outside of Canada dairy tariffs, obviously not only do our prices go up because it's turning into a sort of monopoly, but also like we're basically making it so that our own dairy industry is less efficient because they don't have to be efficient. We could, in theory, actually sell a lot of dairy into the US, but we've made it so that our own industry can just survive selling overpriced product to its own people in its own area because you're not allowed to sell into it. And then we have provincial trade barriers on top of that. Ridiculous. Anyways, before I get into the Trump clip, we're going to get to a lot of stuff other than that. But before I do it, guys, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you like watching, and leave a comment. But here is the clip that Mark Nixon took from Fox News. It was a good condensation of what Trump said. He does say, yes, I am totally on board with wanting Canada to become the 51st state. But again, I'm going to get to why I don't think this is still serious.
You announced tariffs on Canada and Mexico. You immediately got action from both of them on border security and drug interdiction.
I did. A lot of
Is that
action
good
that nobody
enough?
expected.
Is that good enough?
No, it's not good enough.
So more needed in 30 days.
Something has to happen. It's not sustainable. And I'm changing it.
You know, the Prime Minister said this weekend to a group of Canadian businessmen, he was at a private meeting, he said that your wish for Canada to be the 51st state is a, quote, real thing. Is it a real thing?
Yeah, it is. I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada, and I'm not going to let that happen. It's too much. Why are we paying $200 billion a year, essentially in subsidy to Canada? Now, if they're a 51st state, I don't mind doing it.
You said the tariff is a beautiful word. There are some signs in the markets, consumer confidence, that they're a little jittery. So if all goes to plan, when do you think families will be able to feel prices going down, groceries, energy, or are you kind of saying to them, hang on, inflation may get worse until it gets better?
No, I think we're going to become a rich. Look, we're not that rich right now. We owe $36 trillion. That's because we let all these nations take it.
I can probably just cut it off there. But that also at the end there is signaling that when he won't say that, no, I'm not going to tell people to hang on, inflation might get worse, because it would get worse in a trade war with Canada. Definitely. Tons of the Americans' exports and imports are with Canada. I think a lot of the rhetoric around tariffs and around basically starting a trade war if we didn't secure the border was Trump driving his car at Trudeau's car as fast as possible, knowing that Trudeau was going to be the one to actually, pull off the road in this game of chicken. So he got what he wanted while being big and tough, which is what Trump is, one to usually do. He likes to use a lot of hyperbole and tough language to get what he wants, even if what he wants is not, probably didn't need that to actually be achieved. And that's what's kind of going on in my mind when you have the whole 51st state thing going on. Does he actually care to get Canada as a 51st state? No. One, that would be something that would be like a two-term project, and he only has one term right now. And also, what does he want? Let's just say he can immediately make Canada the 51st state. It's a democratic state. It's going to be a deep blue, progressive Democrat Party state. Was you want 2 more Democratic senators? And even then, you'd probably have to make Quebec a 52nd state and Western Canada a 53rd state. It's unfeasible. But the thing is, Trump's not the guy that if you ask him, are you serious about this? To say, no, I'm just joking around. Things I say aren't serious. He likes to present the idea that he is serious all the time. But now we have people like Chrystia Freeland doing the whole virtue signaling thing. I have a message for Donald Trump.
I have a message today for President Trump. If you force our hand, we will inflict the biggest trade blow that the United States has ever endured.
I don't even know about that. Like, one, there's like the war drums in the back, and then like everyone behind her seems to be like almost comatose and reacting to what she's saying. Here, and then oh my goodness. This is like obviously Mark Carney. I didn't even include this comment here because it's so boring. He's like, well, Canada's not going to become the 51st state. And if Trump tries it, I'm going to do something tough as the unelected Prime Minister of Canada because he's probably going to get coordinated as the new Liberal leader. But we have some news on the front of how are things going for the Liberal Party. And again, there's so many people on social media saying, Wyatt, you're wrong. The Liberals are definitely coming back. Not that they're going to win, but like these are conservative people saying, oh, no, you're too overconfident. The Liberals are surging. It's going to be a really tough fight. And it could end up being a tough fight. I just don't think the evidence is really there on the ground. I trust polls, but you always have to interpret polls as what they are representing. Right now, the Liberals have a big response bias because they went from super depressed with Trudeau as their leader to feeling more optimistic with basically anyone as the leader. So they're more likely to pick up the phone and answer a poll. I also don't doubt the Liberals have gotten a big bump in support. And when I say big, I mean 4 or 5 points. They've gone from 22% to 26 or 27. They've increased a decent amount because Trudeau's no longer weighing them down. And because Jagmeet Singh is the most incompetent NDP leader that they've had in decades, a lot of their vote might get siphoned off to the Liberals because it's the patriotic way of trying to fight back against the Poilievre maple MAGA conservatives. I want to get into Poilievre in just a little bit here. But the thing is that this is all artificial, or at least I assume most of it's artificial. Kim Campbell at one point actually exceeded Jean Chrétien in the polls in the 93 election because the PCs started feeling excited again. Their support didn't really bounce back that much, but every PC person was willing to take a phone poll. Right now, every Liberal person is still willing to take a phone poll. And even in the polls where the Liberals are doing good, the Conservatives are still at like 43%, 42%, easily majority territory. If they were actually surging, I wouldn't expect this story to be true. My friend Chase Zaba posted this a little bit ago, and he says, 2 high-profile Liberal cabinet ministers jumped ship on the same day. Mary New, Minister of International Trade and likely CCP front, and Arif Farani, the 3rd Justice Minister after Jody Wilson-Raybould and what was it, Lametti? I know it's Lametti. I'm forgetting his name suddenly. But yeah, like he's like this Team B or Team C, like a justice minister, and they're all leaving. Why would they be leaving with 2 seats in Ontario ridings that, in theory, are pretty safe seats? Well, it's probably because they know even if they get reelected, you're not going to be in government. You're going to be some oppositional person. I believe one of them is even endorsing Carney. One of them's endorsing Freeland. So it's not like the Freeland people think they're going to lose, so they're going to exit quietly. Just people are leaving. They know that like it's not going to go well for them in the next election. And even if if they win, they'd be in a minority government again, getting nothing done. Maybe Carney doesn't keep Varani around because he endorsed Freeland. Mary New maybe has some more investigations coming her way when it comes to her engagement with CCP front groups. So they're all leaving out the back door. Carney, if he becomes the leader, let's assume he is going to have a lot of problems with filling his benches for the election. They have a lot of open seats that they need to fill. So I've heard this rumor that in March, Carney is going to become the leader on March 9th. And then within like a week, he's going to call the election because he thinks if there's more trade threats going on or whatever, he can use that issue to kind of pump himself up in the polls, vote Liberal to vote against Trump or whatever. I don't think he can do that unless he's willing to just appoint people into nominations, like mass scale, appoint like 75 candidates, 100 candidates in a weekend. Can't really do that. And a lot of people resent when their people are just picked by a party boss pointing at them. And so I think really what's going to happen, and we've already seen this with Jagmeet Singh, they're going to be waiting. They're going to be taking their sweet time in picking in picking getting their candidates picked, and they're going to wait till October. We have this video that the CCFR put up of Jagmeet Singh already creating excuses to not vote no confidence in the new Liberal leadership and let them basically persist on for a couple months.
I think it sends a clear message of where we stand. And we want to make it very clear that if you pick a fight with us, we're going to fight back. If they want to recall Parliament, I've said do it. Recall Parliament, and let's get to work to put in supports for workers. Let's recall it, get supports in place. There are going to be, by law, confidence votes at the end of March. I'm voting against the government then. We still have 2 months to bring in laws, protections, supports.
Yeah, he's saying he'll still vote no confidence at the end of March, but I don't believe him. They'll get into negotiations. They'll have difficult time passing stuff. Oh, the conservatives are forcing us to debate these bills rather than just shoving them through. I need my fainting couch in another 5 months to figure out what I'm going to do. He'll do that because Jagmeet Singh is an incredibly predictable politician. The man only looks out for himself. And right now, if you look at the seat projections, again, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but at the very least, it's the same things that his people are going to be looking at. That the seat projections show that depending on what Burnaby riding he tries to run in, he's probably going to lose, especially if he tries to move seats outside of Burnaby, where people definitely haven't seen his name come up on ballots and on street corners for a while. He's just going to get crushed too. He couldn't go back to Brampton, where he used to be an MPP. He'd get absolutely slaughtered. But now I actually just want to point something out that Pierre Poilievre has done recently. I guess I don't really need to bring up his post in particular. I'm just going to bring up a leftist reacting to it. So this guy right here, Team Canada Jiggly, says, when I'm prime minister, I'm going to cut foreign aid with a Trump-like haircut edited on top of Pierre Poilievre. Because Pierre Poilievre is a very bad man, apparently, because he also now supports cutting bad Canadian foreign aid, slashing foreign aid. I am very happy to see this because it demonstrates that Pierre Poilievre and his team are not scared of being compared to Donald Trump to do the right thing on an issue. Oh my goodness, but if we do this, because this is what it would be like if there was O'Toole still in. We can't do that, or people are going to compare us to Trump and Elon Musk, and then all of our voters are going to set their hair on fire and vote for the Greens or whatever. Irrational. No. The foreign aid in Canada is worse than the USAID spending. Do you think that the woke people in Canada can't find dumber ways of spending money than the woke people in the American government? I guarantee our woke people are crazier, and they have crazy spending everywhere. So it's good Poilievre is doing this because it's a great thing you can bring up on a debate stage. Look, show the litany of stupid spending that the Liberals have pursued and say, Carney, are you going to cut any of this? Because you haven't cut it yet. You've been the economic advisor for 3-4 years to Trudeau, and you haven't told him to cut any of this stuff. In fact, you helped advise him to blow out the deficit up to $62 billion. That should be his tactic. Poilievre is also doing great things on wanting life sentences for people dealing fentanyl, wanting to increase military spending, especially in the north, and establish a permanent military base outside of Iqaluit. Great. Good. Very good ideas. Ingratiates us with the Americans for things we should have been doing before anyways. We get to be the people as the conservatives who want to avoid the trade war, who are obviously not supporting a 51st state movement. Basically, nobody does. And then what the liberals are going to try and do is accuse the conservatives of being too conciliatory. At the same time, all the things that the conservatives want to do are common sense. I think that's not exactly something they want to fight over. Here's one pro-Carney comment I want to talk about right before we end here. This guy right here, Mike Gerald Gibbs, him, LGBT flag and Ukraine flag in the bio because, of course, and he, with this great picture of Carney below, says, I'm supporting Mark Carney to be Prime Minister of Canada. I think our best chances of creating an income floor to stop poverty in Canada is with Mark. Okay, one, you're also never going to stop poverty. Poverty is like gravity. You can't stop poverty because It's just one of those things that's going to happen. Your country could be incredibly rich. You are eventually going to have someone who makes stupid choices and becomes poor, even if you live in a society with basically no scarcity. Anyways, he also goes on to say, I also think only Mark Carney can stop Pierre Poilievre. We need a mature, responsible leadership at this time of global upheaval. And he's going to show his striking maturity. One, he's like a 40-year-old man wearing like a skater or like snowboarder hat. And he's talking about we need an income floor. You mean universal basic income, a minimum amount of money that everyone makes regardless of what they do. No. And the thing is that this is demonstrating how lefty Mark Carney is. All of the people who support central bank digital currencies and UBI are supporting this guy. And the real reason that he is supporting him here, because they would vote for anyone to not vote for Poilievre. The fact that the number two thing here is I also think only Mark Carney can stop Pierre Poilievre demonstrates that the Liberals have become a party that doesn't really have that many ideas. Yeah, every once in a while there's somebody who supports proportional representation or UBI or whatever inside the Liberal Party. Maybe Carney does, but you only can define them by how much they spend. They're just the fiscal irresponsibility party. They spend a lot on programs, they generate a lot of new programs, and they basically grow the economy through government investment, not actually free market initiative. That's why we are economy right now combining federal and provincial spending. Our GDP is like 64% government spending, or at least the spending originates from government. So like contractors and other sort of things like that, people being paid to do things on the government's behalf. When you add that in, like almost 2/3 of our entire economy right now is government spending. And it wasn't this way when Harper was prime minister. It wasn't this way when Paul Martin or Jean Chrétien were prime minister, or Brian Mulroney, Kim Campbell even. The spending was like 30%, 40%. And now it's like a majority because they can't help themselves. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. Later video today because I just got back from helping out a robotics tournament and I didn't get back to my house yesterday until 1:30 in the morning. I left home, or I woke up at 5 in the morning to go and help at 7:30, recorded a video in the morning. And then, yeah, I didn't really wake up today until like 3 in the afternoon. Woke up for like an hour to go get a haircut, came back, and then I just slept again. It was crazy. Anyways, regular video schedule will be returning, probably doing 2 shows a day. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. See you later.